What's up, internet? Welcome. Today I'm excited for this video because we're going to do the first aesthetic modification to the Busa. Fender Delete, tail tidy, Fender Eliminator, whatever words you like to use. That's what we're doing today. We're going to get rid of this thing, and I'm going to try and get rid of this too and just see what it looks like without this the gold. I think they call it burnt gold, this burnt gold accent. I like all the other pieces, and I don't mind this one either. I just want to take it off and see what it looks like, see if it might look better without it. Any touch of uniqueness I can give to my Busa so it stands out from all the others, I'm going to try and do.
We're going to start by removing the license plate bracket, which has got these two Allen head bolts with nuts on the other side.
These two bolt holes are going to line up exactly with the two inside bolt holes that hold the fender up, which means we're going to do this for almost next to nothing. You don't need to purchase a Fender Eliminator kit. Of course you can if you want. I don't even know if they're even out on the market yet. I haven't even looked.
My gosh, enough yapping already. Man, I could talk forever. The next step is to remove the 4 bolts that hold the tail section of the rear fender to the subframe. All right, now that we've got the tail portion of the rear fender unbolted from the subframe, it's just kind of hanging by, not kind of, it is hanging by the license plate light wiring. So now we just need to unplug that. Just flip the tail section around and just disconnect it, and then pull the wire into the rear of the bike where nobody can see it. Unfortunately, there's something missing. The actual connector. It looks like the wire or the connector must be buried underneath the passenger seat in the rear fairing somewhere. So unfortunately, it looks like this job's not going to be as easy as originally thought, and we're going to have to take more stuff off. I'm pretty happy that I decided to invest in a full shop service manual for the bike early on, because while I think you could probably find your way through all the body push pins and nuts and bolts that you need to remove to get the rear fairing off so that we can access the license plate light connector, it's just nice having the manual tell you step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, in order to get to this license plate light connector, the first thing we're going to do is remove the passenger seat, remove the rider's seat, and then remove the passenger grab handle. Next, we're going to remove this middle piece that kind of connects the burnt gold accent pieces together. And it's just held in with 4 push pins, those little body pins, so pretty easy to remove that. Next, we're going to remove all the bolts that hold on the rear fairing. There's 2 on the sides and 2 on the tops that are underneath the seats. There are also 2 more of those body push pins underneath on both sides of the rear fairing. Once you get those push pins removed, along with those 4 bolts, the next part is a little tricky, but it wasn't too bad. It actually worked on my first attempt, and that is basically you just pull the rear fairing left and right at the same time, trying to slide it backwards towards you. So I found it easiest to stand behind the bike, grab the left and the right sides, pull away from the bike, and then just slide it towards my body at the same time. With the rear fairing moved, we can finally see the rest of the license plate light wire, and most importantly that little connector. And oh my gosh, there's no way my hands were going to fit in there and disconnect this without removing the fairing. It just wasn't going to happen. And now we can just pull the rest of the wiring out through the fairing and drop the tail section of our rear fender. Man, it's already looking better. Now the fun begins. So I'm using just a piece of aluminum. I think it's like $5, $6 at the local hardware store. For me, that's Home Depot. And I chose aluminum because A, it's light, so we're not adding any unnecessary weight to the bike that's already pretty heavy for a sport bike. And it's soft metal, so it's easy to drill, it's easy to bend, you don't need to use any heat. All you really need is a vise, a hacksaw, and a drill so we can drill some bolt holes. It's a bit of a process. I mean, you need to make your bends, then take the piece of aluminum out from the vise, put it on the bike, check your bend, maybe bend a little bit more, so on and so forth, and just kind of repeat this process over and over and over until you've got this. Once you've got one of these made, it should be easier. You don't really need to do the whole fit to the bike, change a bend, any of that kind of stuff. Just use the first one as a template for the second one. So it should be a little bit quicker to make the second one.
Okay, we're done, man. It's over. It wasn't too bad. I think I spent less than $9 on like a 3-foot, somewhere around 3-foot piece of aluminum. Aluminum's great because it's light, so we're not adding unnecessary weight to an already heavy sport bike. It's a relatively soft metal, so it's easy to drill and bend. You don't need to put heat on it to bend it. You just put it in a vise and just bend it, shape it the way you want. I went with a 1/8 thick piece of aluminum, but I think you could have got away with like a 1/16. Like it doesn't need to be that thick, especially for a license plate bracket. It's not like this is heavy or anything like that. What else? Okay, so taking off the rear fender. In the video, it probably looked like it was this big, huge struggle, but it wasn't. It wasn't really that bad. It's just, it was the first time I took it off, so it was like, you know, I'd look up in the service manual, step 1, then I'd go do step 1, then I'd go back to the service manual, step 2, go do step 2, so on and so forth. If I had to take it off now, I could probably take it off in 15 minutes or so. It's not bad at all. However, I feel like I shouldn't have to take it off to unplug the license plate light. That was the whole deal. So the wires are all just wired into the license plate light back here, and there's like a tiny little hole, goes up into the fairing, the rear fairing here. And instead of having it like in the trunk area where I could just pop the seat off and get to the plug, it's kind of like buried off into the side here, and there's no way these hands were gonna get in there and unplug. You could hardly even see the dang thing. So I thought that was kind of ridiculous. Like, they could have made that easier. But maybe they put it there because they don't want you messing with it. I don't know. So I had to take the rear fairing off just so I could unplug the license plate light. I also ended up taking, I think I mentioned it earlier in the video, but I wanted to take this completely off and just run it without, they call this, in the service manual, they call it mud guard, but this burnt gold orange accent piece, which I don't mind it. I just thought it would be a unique touch to just take it off altogether and just, you know, be different. But there's 2 screws on each side, so you've got 4 holes you need to plug. And then the plastic underneath it, it's got all these little, I don't know, different curves to it and textures, and it just didn't look good. So put it back on, but I'm glad that I took it off so I could at least see what I wanted to see. And then what else? I think that's basically it, right? So we spent $9 for a piece of aluminum. We drilled it, cut it up, bent it a little bit. And oh, one last thing. So when you take the fender off, there's 4 bolts. 2 are holding up our aluminum little brackets for the license plate. And there's 2 more that are a little bit farther back. And these bolts are, I'm reaching around for it, but I can't feel it because I'm in the wrong place. There it is right there. They've got kind of a tapered shaft, and the part that's nearest to the bolt head is that space, that gap is taken up by the fender itself. So once you remove the fender, you've got this gap, and the bolts bottom out before they hit what's on the other side of the fender, you know, I guess the main part of the rear fender. And so you need to be able to get a spacer that's the same thickness as the portion of the fender that you're removing from the bike. That way you don't have that gap, and instead of just bottoming out into the subframe underneath here, it actually puts pressure against the main fender that's still underneath the fairing. I think that's it. So just note that. Note that you're gonna have to take off the rear fairing to get the license plate light disconnected. And anyway, it wasn't that bad. I think it took me maybe 30, 45 minutes to drill and shape and bend the first of the 2 aluminum brackets. And then once you've got one done and you've kind of got it fitted the way you want, then it's just, you know, you gotta, you know, just make a carbon copy. You got a template. So the second one should be a little bit easier. And I don't know, I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. It's good for now. Can always change it in the future. I think I'm going to come back and try and do something different than just remove this. Like maybe cut the, I'm going to save that for another video. All right, guys, I think I'm done. I think I mentioned everything I wanted to mention. So keep the rubber side down. We'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.